My friend, the only constant in life is most certainly change. Today's guest is living proof that change can become our greatest catalyst. Welcome to the show, Leadership Synergized. Today, you'll meet Debbie Wemyss, founder of DW Consulting Solutions, whose inspiring journey began late in life while jobless for the first time and being led to a global LinkedIn coaching firm transforming thousands of careers. Rooted in resilience inherited from her father, Debbie turned uncertainty into a mission, helping professionals and organizations master the world's most powerful networking platform. With over 800 coach clients across 21 countries, she's a champion of connection, confidence, and possibility. Get ready for a conversation about reinvention, the power of LinkedIn, and how embracing change can open doors you never saw coming. This is the story of courage, curiosity, and what's possible when you lean in to the unexpected. With Ms. Debbie Wemyss, as you can see in the backdrop with the little signage behind her, she's the owner of her company, DW Consulting, and has had a highly successful career as she's shared with us. And Ms. Wemyss, again, thank you for being with us. And you talked a lot about resilience, and God bless you. I appreciate your vulnerability and the challenges career-wise in that particular piece. And you used the term when we talked in the last episode, transition. There are more and more people in this world today who transition from career to career, from company to company, many times not because of their own choice. And they really hadn't thought that would ever happen in that piece. I know that was me after roughly 23 years of manufacturing, right around the age of 50, kind of being told that things were going to change and so be it type thing in that regard. But to your point, and I commend you, and I really loved what you said, not that you had to go through it, but you really do become challenged because it forces one to look in the mirror again, not and to accept it's not because I did something wrong that I'm where I am. So I can either stay here or I can move ahead. When you think about probably the most impactful piece that helped you during that year off, that year of watching your maybe your savings or your funds dwindle down and you were trying to find yourself or what was next. What jumps out as, I know you talked about your siblings pushing you to start your own business, but as far as you, when it became getting to know Debbie Wemyss a little bit better with that increased self-awareness, what jumps out at you when that moment occurred, and what was that takeaway or learning that you might offer advice to somebody tomorrow who's facing something very similar?
You have to believe in positive things happening to you at the least likely moment. I think the hardest part about my hitting rock bottom, because I did, the hardest part was coming back from it, realizing, first of all, it was going to take time. And secondly, you better learn to be creative because an empty bank account doesn't pay the bills. So I can laugh about it now, but I mean, I became unafraid to reach out for help. And as I got going and more knowledgeable about the platform, and able to help people that knew nothing about it or were just starting a profile, an account, it just gave me a really good feeling to know that I was helping them with stuff that they will continue using indefinitely, and getting them started with, use your phone contacts to look up people on LinkedIn. Your people in your phone, a lot of them already know you. So you don't have to worry about adding a note, which now you are severely limited on how many times you can do that in a month. So you go after people that know you well enough. The minute they see your invitation and they see you, oh yeah, I know Debbie, I'll connect with her. You don't have to worry about adding a note. That was a pretty big change that they initiated a couple of years ago, that we had to quickly revamp our training. because it's quite different when you are trying to invite people to connect without telling them why.
Mm.
So, um, you have to keep the hope. You have to find a way to do that. And I know it's going to sound corny to a lot of people, but for me, I have a sister that was trying for years to get me to listen and understand the law of attraction and nothing on California, but that's where she was for years. And I thought, oh, that's too woo-woo. I don't want anything to do with that. That's whatever, dreamer stuff. Well, I had no excuses when I was not working for 11 months. And that was the time she sent me the book. I bought the CDs. Yeah, CDs. And, I live by that now. And I can manifest pretty much whatever I need to. And I know that sounds lofty, but when you've been doing it for several years, and I know exactly when I get off track, and I know why, and I know what I have to do to get back on track. And that takes practice and it takes a lot of work because we're not wired to think that way.
Mm.
We're not. Most of us are not raised to think, well, you can think your way into anything you want. No, most people are not raised even now, with that kind of mindset. So you have to rewire, you have to practice, you have to work at it and work at it. And I think the main thing, uh, it was very evident when I started gaining more clients on LinkedIn, really starting to roll. And it was 4 years before I brought anybody on board to help me. So I was really a solopreneur for maybe even almost 5 years. Yeah, it was almost 5 years. Uh, and I was terrified to do that. I didn't have enough money to pay anybody.
Was there ever a moment during that 4 or 5 years where you thought, okay, this is not going as I expected it to. I need to drop back. Or did you, once you got there, you just stayed fully committed to it?
No, I was determined because I liked saying I was a business owner.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I really started to enjoy hearing that come out of my mouth because it was so, um, I love the nonprofit world, but no one gets into nonprofit work to get rich, really, ever. Um, and the most frustrating part of all the work I did with 6 different organizations, by far, the common thread of frustration was how long it took to change processes
Mm.
within the organization. You had to go through 6 people, you had to get it approved by 4, and then it took time to change and make the thing happen if, in fact, anything got changed. It was very frustrating, especially when I'm sitting there knowing, just feeling concrete sure, I know this would work better if we would just do it this way. So the other thing I really latched on to, and I made plenty of mistakes, I still do, but in the beginning, I started my business with nothing, Kevin. I had no capital.
Mm.
Um, uh, Zero. I mean, literally going from Starbucks meetings where I could afford coffee to Starbucks meetings where, okay, now I'm ordering a bagel with my coffee. I mean, it's like gradually, uh, you know, oh my gosh, there were so many people back then. They always wanted to meet for lunch, and I thought, I can't afford that. And anyway, you learn what works. But for me, besides hearing myself say, I'm a business owner, the other thing was having the ability to make changes quickly,
Mm.
because I was it. It was my mistake, and I got to correct it just as fast as I wanted to. And I really thrived on that. And I listened a lot to other people. And in the beginning, that wasn't easy either, because I'm thinking, I'm the business owner. I should be making these decisions. You got to learn to open up, especially to people that have been there, done that, and they're doing really well. And, there's a reason for that. So why don't you listen?
Yeah.
I had some great mentors, and I always tell people now, if you're not thinking of getting one, find one.
Mm.
They're not all um, don't think of a mentor as an expense. You have to think of a mentor as someone who's truly going to care about your
Mm.
success, and they don't have to be expensive. I actually had a client who took off with everything I taught him. Um, I talk about him frequently, and he knows it. He used to run a little company called DHL Global.
Yeah, kind of small. Yeah.
Had to take an early retirement because of a skiing accident.
Oh.
Um, and that man would teach me more. Best time for me to catch him was when he was in his car.
Mm.
And I would find out, hey, can I call you, next week? And he'd check his calendar. I would learn more from him in a 15-minute phone call than any course that I had paid for to learn marketing or business or anything else. I don't have an MBA. I went to school for 2 years and got an associate's degree in liberal arts so I could go apply at American Airlines and follow my older sister into being a stewardess. And we're going back 1973. Um, yeah, and that didn't work out. They had height and weight requirements back then. Imagine that.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
and this fellow just became a very dear resource of just I could if I followed what he was suggesting that I do, it always made things better. It was always an improvement. So he became a client who I will forever credit with making us global because he ran a global company for a long time. And when he started to take off with the training, his cronies were curious, what are you doing? Oh, let me introduce you to my favorite teacher, and he turned me on to more uh, upper level, high level executives in different countries, and some of which had very heavy accents. So that was another thing that I had to kind of get around. Um, I love him dearly to this day. And I always tell people that are entrepreneurs, especially if they're starting out without much capital like I did, find someone who's successful in your eyes, get to know them, and ask them if they'll help you.
Great
Even if
advice.
it's, donating their time for 15 minutes or a half hour on specific subjects. 9 times out of 10, people like that are more than willing. I still give away a lot of my time, because I've heard a lot of the stories that people are telling me about, uh, you know, being let go unexpectedly. Good Lord. I mean, we had a rash of people back in January. I think we may have another rash right now coming up, sadly. Um, it's not fair. These people, a lot of them have been at the same job for 20,
Mm.
25 years.
Hmm.
They don't have a resume. They haven't had to look for a job in decades, and now they have no job. And it's happening. So, uh, anytime I give away time, Kevin, it comes back to me tenfold,
I love that.
always.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that piece. And we're speaking with Ms. Debbie Wemyss, who owns DW Consulting and in particular has become an expert with coaching and training, whether it's one-on-one or group with LinkedIn and how to use that. And Ms. Wemyss, thank you again. You used three words a moment ago I want to circle back to as we were talking about transition. You used the term rewire, you used the term work, you used the word learn. Many times, individuals, when they reach that, what used to be the traditional end of career, that 55 to 65 age level, uh, I can't tell you how many times I've heard people say, well, there's nothing else for me to learn, or I can't do anything differently. But you are living proof with your success, my friend, and I'm so proud of you. And thank you so much for opening up and sharing this, rewiring and shifting the paradigms that there still is value for us, and then linking it to that word learn because it is really lifelong learning if we open up and allow ourselves to understand that our worth isn't diminished if we've got to learn something different that we never took time to learn in our prior 4 or 5 decades of work. And I think you're a living example of how that has come together and can be successful for all of us. And one thing I take a lot of hope with is there's more and more people later in life and career that continue to learn, and whether it's read books or just as you stated that when you were talking about your mentor with DHL a little bit ago, there's so much in just conversation we can learn and grow through if we afford our minds the opportunity to put away what maybe we thought used to be the only way and open up a new whiteboard, if you will.
It's never easy to change, Kevin. But you know what I've realized repeatedly, you have to make changes throughout your entire life. It's just part of life is, making changes and adjusting and gee, guess what happens when you're willing to do that? You grow. If you're not changing, you're not growing. And I think a perfect example of that, even now, even though it's been around for years, is AI.
Mm.
And the people that are still, hello, um, just bucking heads with it. Well, now I've started to get into it. My team has gotten into it, and you know, there's some really great surprises coming out of that. So I think it's something that everyone just needs to dip their toe in, regardless of what business they're in, because it's already in every part of your life and it's going to continue. And it's really amazing. And yes, it has a bad side, dark side, whatever you want to call it. Um, just
Well,
like
what
anything
doesn't,
else.
right? What doesn't in this world?
So I think the sooner people are willing to embrace, the better. Frankly, I wish I had sooner. I just, you make excuses. We're all good at making excuses.
It's fun sometimes, right? We could talk ourselves into a mindset, but then find out the real world doesn't align with that.
Yep, it's pretty amazing.
Ms. Williams, I know you have recently undertaken a wonderful experience in writing a book. Talk a little bit, first of all, about the experience, and let's dive into your book and what we can expect when we get a chance to get a copy and read the book.
I'm happy to do that. Thank you for that opportunity. Okay, first and foremost, I will say I have been talking about writing a book for years. And the one that I always talked about in my head and to a few people uh, was that journey of unemployment
Mm.
and how I learned to find what worked for me to keep the hope alive in the most dire straits of time. And how everyone in transition has to find that to keep going, especially when there's nothing to keep going on. I'm talking about running through resources. Um, I always thought my book would be about that. So in comes this wonderful collaborator, and Jillian is, where is she now? I think she's in Texas. And give me one second so I don't make a real perfect blunder here. Um, yeah, she's in Texas, but she was in Vegas for a long time. But we got connected a long time ago, Jillian Whitney, and she does a lot of things that she's really good at for years. And she still teaches people all about video, anything and everything people need to know about, not being afraid of the camera, etc. Because she saw video getting important on social media
Mm.
long before a lot of people. So that was her forte, and now she is a book coach. I'm collaborating with her. Um, full transparency, I invested in her in December. And the first thing I'm going to tell people, be ready for the time it takes to write a book. Now, normally it would take probably a few months longer than you think. In my case, it's going to be over a year. Part of that is because I just took like a 5-month break for various reasons from working on the process. But get someone to work with you as a collaborator. I don't know how many times in the past I started writing an outline of that book that I talked about. And after the first meeting with her, she said, you've got about 3 books in you.
Mm.
And she suggested starting with a different one from what I had always thought about. And it made sense when she explained it. So I'm working on my first book. And see, that makes me mentally think I have more. So gotta keep me going. So we're working on the first one, really hoping to have it published in time for a couple of events that I'll be working at in February. And I'd like to take that book with me and just give it away. And it's going to be about the importance of networking throughout your life, not just business. But when I started thinking about examples of what I alluded to previously about people coming back into my life that I had known for years, that ended up helping me move forward from where I was at the time. How many times that happened? I started thinking about the stories that I have, and they went back to college, Kevin, when I was in college, when I got out of college, and then, all the different things I've done since then, and how different people came into my life at different times when I least expected it. And something really good happened because of it, which would not have happened if I had not maintained different relationships through the years. So I worked for 6 different nonprofits in that first career, 23 years. And I always kept my relationships from one nonprofit to the other. I always maintained the business relationships. They were all in Palm Beach County, so that was an advantage, all in South Florida. And that was one of the most valuable things I did, especially uh, when it was time to find something else to do that was not in the nonprofit world. And so I'm really having fun because it's storytelling. And to reach back through decades, yes, I have gray hair, to reach back through those decades to all the different times when things like that happened that made a significant difference in my life. Um, it became really fun. So we're getting there now. I have kickstarted the process again because now I've got February in my brain where I have events I want to take my book to and have it done and out there. So,
Have you selected a title of the book yet?
oh no, no. And you know what's interesting? That's like the last thing that you do.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I always thought it would be right up front. Nope, that's like one of the last things you do, along with the cover, the design, all that stuff later. Right now we're getting all the content together, and it's just been fun, and I can't wait to share some of these stories because I know there's going to be people out there. They'll either say, "Oh, that happened to me," but maybe they didn't carry on the relationship the way they could have. And I'm talking business relationships here.
What an incredible conversation with today's guest, Debbie Wemyss, a woman who proves that change isn't something to fear, it's something to leverage. From rebuilding after career loss to building a global consulting firm, her journey reminds us that resilience, networking, and genuine connection can transform everything. If today's episode sparks something in you, a desire to grow, to show up better on LinkedIn, or to embrace the next chapter of your life, then Debbie's work is exactly where to begin. Thank you, Debbie, for sharing your wisdom, your story, and your passion for helping others succeed. And thank you, my friend, for listening and for joining us on Leadership Synergized. Remember, change will always come, but how you respond can shape your future. Until next time, keep learning, keep connecting, and keep moving forward, my friend. God bless.